Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
The sun peeks over the horizon. Your excitement builds. The animals in the field start to stir. The forest comes alive with sounds. The sunlight glimmers off the lake, and the mountains start to shed their morning fog. So load up your favorite ammo, grab a few buddies, and head out to make some memories. And tell the rest of the world that you've gone hunting. Gone Hunting is a 1 to 4 player game of family fun where you build a unique hunting ground, scout different animals, buy weapons and gear, and roll dice to hunt. Complete objectives and try not to miss. So let's load up the truck and back Gone Hunting today. See you in the field.
And now for something completely different.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Reality of Comics with me, Paul Gomez. Now, this week's episode, I want to talk about a special subject, which is keeping quiet. Now, before I get to this topic at hand, I really want to introduce myself a little bit more. Now, I've only been in the comic industry about a year. I do have 4 books that have been on Kickstarter and fully fulfilled, or have been gone through Kickstarter and all been campaigned and met my goal. And the last one's currently being fulfilled. So what I really wanted to tell you about is, I guess, my beginning of the journey of starting comics. Whenever I originally started, it was supposed to be a home project. Before all this happened, I was a normal 9-to-5 guy. I had a decent job. I had 6 kids. I was married. I was buying a house. We had 2 brand new cars, and I was on a budget that everything was falling into place where we didn't have to worry about going behind on our bills and whatnot. And everything was tight, but everything was paid for. Having said that, whenever the pandemic hit, it really hit us hard, just like it hit a lot of people. I had got let go from my job. My kids were stuck at home. And what I decided to do was kind of get everybody together and get them writing and talking and doing stuff more than just staying on TV or playing on video games. And because of that, that's where the stories came to for my first few books. We sat down every day for about 15 minutes, and then it became like a weekly thing where it was an hour where we would put together ideas. And that's where Bushy Boo Circus Mysteries came from. After I had lost my job and after the kids started going through some experiences, including my oldest that was in the house catching COVID and getting a collapsed lung, my youngest being diagnosed with autism, one of my middle boys being diagnosed with diabetes type 1, which basically means he has to give himself shots at least 3 or 4 times a day. And then on top of that, after a few months, my daughter was cutting herself. Throughout all this, I really wanted to give them something to look forward to and lift them up. And that's really the reason that the stories came about. And originally we started to make it a book, but it was with my dyslexia and the dyslexia of my kids that we decided that was a little too hard. We ended up deciding on making it a comic book because I had just started introducing my 2 13-year-olds, my twins, into comic books a couple of months prior. And one of them brought it to my attention. Why not make it a comic? With Bushy Boo Circus, it kind of just fit into there. And I basically tell you this because in the next few steps is really where I'm going to bring up the subject matter of keeping quiet. So even though this was a household project, I decided to go around to see if I could find an artist to make it a little bit special for my kids, a little bit more than just what we could do at the house. In doing so, I found a local artist, Mike Henson, who sat down and gave me a few hours of his time and told me how we could lift this project from just a household project to something that could actually fit on a bookshelf at a store. And I found that amazing and figured that the kids would be more proud of that than anything else. So I started going ahead with my steps. And one of those steps is as I've told you, was the first thing I did was go get an editor. And after getting an editor, I wanted to surround myself with people who knew what they were doing. It was at this time that one of my advisors really came to me and started saying, you have to understand that everything you say from this point on could be scrutinized. If you're looking to make comic book as a serious thing, people are going to look at everything you say. So he had told me, basically, anything you put on Facebook, anything that you say in public, and the way you carry yourself, if you're going to make this a business, people are going to listen to your words. And at that point, you need to understand that it could be any and every word that you put out there that they'll scrutinize. So he basically said to kind of keep quiet. Now, I got to admit, at the time, I didn't really understand it and didn't really know what he was saying and didn't exactly believe it to the full effect. I personally thought of it as myself just writing a book, putting something out there and seeing if it would sell. And basically, like I said, it was a household project to lift my kids' spirits up. So eventually, things evolved. And then after a certain point, I was talking to an artist who was telling me that we were in the entertainment field. Now, this has been brought up a few times to me, and basically it echoed the words that my friend told me before. In the entertainment field, your words are brought back to you tenfold if you don't stop and realize what you're putting out there. And people scrutinize not just what you say, but like what you post and what you do, and especially what you're going to put in your books. Now, again, I didn't exactly understand it and didn't really believe it at that time. To me, I was just writing a story, and I didn't feel like I would get anyone coming back with anything that I said or done. And to me, what I put in the books was pretty general. Now, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on common sense. And having said that, whenever I have a problem, I usually basically take a few steps back, realize what the problem is, and then kind of head into the problem knowing what I need to do and understand before just jumping into the chaos of it all. So it really happened early on in my career, I guess you could say, when basically I was hiring people on for my first book, which was Bushy Boo Circus Mysteries. Now, being that I was on hard luck and I knew everybody else was, especially around me, I wanted to make sure that I was trying to hire people around to help them out as well. So I kind of made it a point to go hire artists that were close by. I wanted my interior artists, my cover artists, my editor, my writers all to be from around here in Texas. Not only so I could maybe drive and visit them, but also so I could help out my community. And the thing about it was, whenever that happened, it was kind of hard to keep that group together. At one point, I did have my interior artist kind of drop out, and I understood the reasons, but it didn't really make the sting or hurt of it all kind of less. So I did know that at that time, I really needed to stop and not say anything. I definitely didn't want to make any enemies in the comic book field. So that was one of the things that I just sat there and debated on what my next steps were. So what I did was basically take a while and decide that I was going to take a break. And even though I had the script and my editor and everybody else in place, I had to find a new interior artist. And that took a while. Whenever I did this, I decided to double down. And that's where one of my first book that came out, which was PTSD, kind of started on its way. Whenever I wrote PTSD, I kind of got a lot of backlash, especially at the beginning, because PTSD is usually tied with the military. So a lot of people asked me if I was a military person. And some of them, even before opening the book, would say that you didn't have any right to write PTSD because you weren't in the military. Now, my point wasn't to specifically target the military. My point was simply this was a passion project that I wanted to talk about mental illness and awareness. And with PTSD, that was the biggest focus point on that kind of subject. I felt that could bring up the conversation a lot more. So I continued ahead. I had several backlashing statements from it. And I tried to keep my cool and keep quiet and just keep going on in the journey. A lot of the backlashing statements were like, it didn't lose the realism that most comic books would make, that it was too real to be a comic book, or it wasn't comic book material, or it was too harsh of a book to sell. Now, I didn't really take offense to any of that. And I understand that everybody's got their own opinion. So whenever anyone would come at me with a comment was that they didn't like my comic, I understood that my comic's not for everybody. So basically, I would just continue on. With PTSD, I feel like it was actually a success because it did sell so well. Not only that, but I also had veterans that actually came up and shook my hand. One man gave me a hug and started crying whenever he started telling me about his experience reading it. And I've had several emails from other veterans saying that it helped to understand that there were other people out there dealing with difficulties, that they appreciated the storyline of it. So I was glad that I continued on with PTSD, and it being a big seller for me. I felt a little guilty, but very much proud as well. I guess the main reason I felt guilty is basically because I didn't want to sell this book. PTSD was a passion project. I really wanted it to be a compendium of Bushibu, which I felt was my flagship project at the time. So I wanted PTSD to kind of be my art project, my passion project to show people and to bring up that conversation. The fact that it did sell well didn't change my mind that I wasn't going to sell it continuously or forever. After the first 1,000 print, I actually contemplated stop selling it. The only reason I continued on was because I had a family member who is a veteran himself tell me that I would be doing a disservice if I stopped selling it. So he actually paid for the second 1,000 copy run and said, I'm paying for it. You got to continue selling it. And so, I have, because of those reasons. But getting back to the subject matter at hand, really talking to the crowds and listening to what they have to say is an amazing experience. Sometimes having to pull back comments or suggestions or things is a tough thing to relate to a new creator, and dealing with artists and editors and having that team. The subject matter of keeping quiet, especially whenever you're talking with artists, is a hard thing. Nowadays, I'm dealing with a lot of cover artists, a lot of interior artists, and like I said, editors as well. Sometimes cover artists are different to deal with. I'm not saying that they're difficult, but dealing with multiple cover artists as opposed to just one or two is a daunting task, I would say. I've had cover artists that didn't really bring in the cover until the end of the Kickstarter campaign, which was, I felt like a detriment to me or to the campaign, because here you're promising a cover art and you don't have it until like the last few days, and it's kind of hard to campaign that. It's also hard to ask somebody to campaign for you at least once or twice. Now, I understand it's my belief that the creator or the person who owns the project is the one person that should be campaigning for it the most. But whenever I do hire cover artists nowadays, as opposed to at the beginning, I do ask them a series of questions like, are they going to contribute to my Kickstarter campaign? Are they going to have any original art to sell on that campaign site? Are they willing to campaign by just posting it once or twice? And to me, that kind of leads into my decision on whether I'm going to hire them or not. Now, even if an artist says, I'm not going to campaign and I'm not going to contribute to Kickstarter, that doesn't mean I'm not going to hire them. It just kind of puts it in perspective and lets me know what I got going forward. Most, I would say 99% of the cover artists that I've dealt with have said, yes, I'll at least put it on some of my social media once or twice, which is usually the very least I ask. And I believe that's, I think the margin, I don't really think that there is a certain level that is expected of everybody to campaign, but I believe that there should be an understanding before you get into those steps, because you don't want to get into those steps and not know it. And there's sometimes whenever you're talking to an artist that you do have to keep quiet, especially being a brand new creator. Now, I've hired several different artists, and I've had a few artists come to me with products that were different from what I asked for. And again, being a brand new creator, it's hard to get your footing in there and say, hey, this isn't what I asked for. This isn't what we agreed on. Here's where we got the proof. And sometimes new artists don't talk about contracts or having things in writing. So I expressly believe, make sure you have it in writing. Make sure you have what you're looking for kind of detailed out. But the thing about it is, if you don't, you got to understand that it's hard to speak up. Now, there's times to keep quiet and there's times to speak up. And that's a hard thing to understand, especially being a brand new creator. If you're talking to artists who are well established, they're going to feel like you're a little bit unexperienced with negotiating or talking to the artists. And artists kind of have this brotherhood. So you don't really want to go forward and step on anyone's toes, because you don't want to make enemies out there. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that you should keep quiet on everything, but understand when it's good and when it's not. Like my first friends had told me, anytime you're going to speak, anytime your talk out there, whether you're going to put something on social media or whether you're going to talk to someone that you're working with, it could be scrutinized. And one of the best things that I can advise you to do is make sure that if there's any bad blood out there, don't just run to a social media site and throw it out there. You want to try to find a median. Me personally, I try to find a mutual friend that can kind of be a mediator, if you will. But the main thing I'm trying to get to is there's certain times to be quiet, sometimes not. Whenever you're talking to artists, whenever you're talking to an editor, whenever you're talking to someone who's co-working on this project. I do know that there's some editors that are a little more stronger and influential and kind of get their opinions out there more than others. And there are some editors that believe that it's really the creator's choice to go with whatever they want to. And again, when we had talked about hiring an editor, these are one of the things that you want to talk to an editor about beforehand, because you don't want to be in the middle or late in the project and say, well, this is the person I'm going to have on my cover. And then the editor's like, you really shouldn't. Or this isn't the way page 32 should be. And even though that's your vision of it, you're kind of battling against your own people that you're hiring. And you have to kind of debate whether it's worth the fight or not. There have been times when interior artists take a little bit of their own artistic influence and put it into the project. And you got to understand, they can't see those pictures in your mind. So you have to guide them. And if it's not where you can guide them, then sometimes you do have to keep quiet. Sometimes you have to understand that they're part of that process and that mix. Now, whenever I'm talking about keeping quiet, it doesn't just mean whenever you're dealing with a co-creator or an artist or something like that. It's also whenever you are talking on digital media or talking out in a convention, just about anything you say or do can be scrutinized. I've had a few times in my short period where I've actually been given a cease and desist order. And I haven't really brought up the subject that much, and I don't plan to really talk about it that much with many people. But it's one of those things that I felt was a little bit too unwarranted and unnecessary. Now, because it happened, and whenever it did happen, I went to my closest advisors and started asking questions and talking about what was going on. The thing about it is, sometimes whenever you're a small indie creator and there's these bigger fish in the seas, you do have to keep quiet and change course a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that that's exactly right, but that's the way the industry is from time to time. If you want to pick a fight, understand what's going to happen and what's going to go on from there. At that point, I had people saying, if you do decide to continue on with this fight, if you do decide to keep out and speak out about it and give out names and pinpoint people, that they wouldn't be in my corner for that much longer. And I understood where they're coming from. I understood that they didn't really want to make enemies within the comic industry as well. To me, I weighed my options and decided to go into a different path. I decided to make sure that with that court order, it was basically, or that cease and desist, I decided to basically go with what they were asking for. And again, it did make a big difference at that point because it was at the beginning of one of my Kickstarters. And you can imagine having to stop a Kickstarter in the first week or so and completely change it around. So even if you're out there and even if you're basically putting your stuff out there into place, there's going to be a lot of chaos and a lot of problems that you're going to have to solve. You take it step by step. And sometimes you have to keep quiet. Sometimes you don't. And the main thing is to understand where things are coming from and what's going to be the cause and effect of things. Last week was definitely a bad week for me. And I did have a few good things. One of the main good things is I got to meet a great creator, a titan basically in the industry, and somebody that I've known about for a long time. Now, because I did meet this creator, I've actually had a few repercussions because of it. Now, I wouldn't say that it was anyone's choice but mine. And I would definitely take that meeting 100 times over just for the fact of meeting that person. Now, I'm not the type of person that keeps secrets or goes behind people's backs. So I did let people know what was happening kind of after the fact, because before the fact, it was kind of like, um, we're not really talking about going through certain steps or whatnot. And I didn't know what the meeting was about, whether it was advice or what was happening with my books. There was a little interest in them, and it was basically a meeting to kind of ask a few questions. The thing about it was, afterwards, it was kind of seen like I was out there marketing my books, which was farthest from the truth. But it did lead to another path that I felt like was necessary. Now, I've had a bunch of amazing people around me, and I consider just about every one of them friends. I've had a lot of advisors and a lot of people who give me advice, and I appreciate each and every one of them. Uh, if you notice inside of my books, I try to dedicate every book to somebody new that's helped me along in this process. And I make sure that if anybody's promoted me, and this is one of the things I definitely tell all the new creators, if somebody's out there promoting you, make sure that people know it. These people are taking their time and announcing that your project is out there. Don't just go on their show and then kind of leave. Make sure that they're appreciated, and make sure that they understand that you appreciate them. Now, that's definitely not the time to keep quiet. I usually say get on the hilltop and just scream it from the top of your lungs. Hey, these people help me. Just like I appreciate Pops for hosting this show on his channel. I can't say enough how much I do appreciate that. And all the help and support that he's given me with these books. The time that I'm really wanting to talk and tell people about is basically understand, whenever you do go into the comic field, it is a little bit harsh. You do have to deal with the artists, and you do have to deal with the publishers, and you do have to deal with the editors. I'm not telling you that you should swallow your pride and keep quiet, but understand, whenever, no flipping tables, whatever you do get into the industry, it is a little more scrutinized, especially on social media, especially if you're doing posts. That first advisor that basically told me, don't put any negative posts on social media, because people will see that for days and weeks on end. This is something that I never knew before. This is something that I didn't understand when he told me. And it took me months to really understand that. And I want to get this through to the new creators. Understand, this is a very different field than most. This is more of a public field where you're going to be seen. I've had a lot of questions whether I was going to take my kids to cons, or whether I was going to show my kids in videos and whatnot. And to me personally, I felt that this entire career was started with them and because of them, and that they're enjoying going to the cons and meeting these people. They're friends with my current editor, and they love talking to him. They love talking to some of the artists out there, and they constantly ask when we're going to see them. Right. Everything you say, it can be criticized. And like I said, this is one of the things that I didn't know. I didn't realize, and it kind of struck me severely several times, especially in this past week. But I mean, just the fact of having your kids out there, I've had people say, well, you're using your kids just to gain a little bit of publicity. And I'm like, I'm not really using my kids. They're part of the journey with me. Yeah. And the reason I wanted to make this show was to let other creators know, this is part of the stuff that I've had to deal with. These are part of the things that came up whenever you lose artists or are in an argument with a cover artist or somebody like that. You have to kind of watch your P's and Q's. Everybody's got a brotherhood in this comic community, and it feels like if you don't have people behind you, that you could say the wrong thing in the wrong instance. Even whenever I do have contracts, even whenever I do have stuff in writing, I've been kind of pushed aside because I haven't been that person. And there's times where I decided to kind of take one on the jaw as opposed to just fighting that fight. I felt like pushing on with my next book, it was better than making a big deal out of some of these smaller fights that weren't exactly necessary. Did it hurt my comic career? I would say that it stalled it, and that some of the times it made me take detours, and that's really the reason I wanted to talk about it. Because if you're having to readjust things, if you're having to make things different, yeah, you're definitely gonna, if you keep doing what you're doing, if you get on to the next project, some of those things kind of fall by the wayside. And that's where I definitely wanted to tell you about as well. All these problems that I've had, it's like once the next project was going, those kind of fell to the wayside. Whenever I had that one project that I had to change the majority of things on that first week, it wasn't, hey, this is going to get me down, or hey, I'm not going to cancel that Kickstarter. Instead, we changed everything and just steamrolled ahead. And that was my best Kickstarter to date. So just because it looks like a downfall doesn't mean that it is going to be. Even if you're on that last week and you're, $1,000 shy from your goal, doesn't mean that you can't power through it and get to it. Whether it's your first day on that campaign or it's your last day, you should be out there advertising and keeping in mind that you are trying to push forward, that you are trying to get that goal. There are some things, like I say, that you do keep quiet about, and there's some things that you don't. Whenever you're campaigning, I do feel that you shouldn't really talk negatively just about anything. That doesn't mean that you don't have that advisor that you can get advice on and say, hey, is this the right way to go? Or is this me kind of jumping out of my wits end at this person not doing stuff the way I asked them to? But it doesn't have to be public, and things definitely could be held on the right level. If you have a problem with someone, I always say find a mediator, get the problem resolved, and then take steps to go forward on that next project or continue on what you're doing. And that was a real main reason for this show. I put out there, is this going to be the last show ever? Oh, this won't be the last show ever. Even if people say bad things about me or bad things about my books, I personally believe in them, stand behind them, and I'm going to push forward. Tomorrow's another day. Sometimes you do have to take a break, and I might take a break from making a comic for a month or two, get my stuff fulfilled, and then take a little while to reevaluate where I'm going and whatnot. And that's a good thing. That's definitely a subject for a later day, is taking a break, because I know just about 90% of the creators that I've talked to out there definitely needed to take a break or two. That stress is overwhelming, and it's definitely hard to not jump on social media and outbash someone or talk negatively about a project or complain that your Kickstarter's not going the right way, or it's a million things that kind of get to you. And it's really hard to keep your composure sometimes. And I don't believe that it's just me that feel this way. Whenever I talk to other creators, they tell me the same experiences. So I want to make sure that new creators understand this. Find yourself a support system, people that you can believe in and rely on and know that are helping you go forward, that are giving you that little bit of extra effort to get you to that next level, because you're going to help them out as well. I know if you actually talk about any of my artists, I've mentioned their name at least 100 times. Whether you're talking about my cover artists, whether you're talking about my interior artists, or you're talking about my editors, especially whenever I'm on that campaign trail, I make sure to announce who they are. I make sure to campaign not just for what they did, but what they have done and what they are doing. I try to share on social media what they're doing. And these are some of the things that a lot of creators don't do with their artists as well. It's like, make sure it's a two-way street. If you're definitely going to ask, your artist to campaign for you, make sure you're campaigning for them. If you're asking to be on a promotional show, make sure you go out there and tell people about these shows. Originally, whenever I started watching YouTube shows like Draw and Talk and Catch the Craze that showed a lot of stuff that helped creators and let them understand what was going on. Now, their shows were kind of a little bit more cut and dry and didn't hit the harder truths that I really wanted to talk about. And that's the reason I wanted to make this show right here on Pops' channel, to kind of give you more of a hard truth on that. I don't think I saw a show that was like, hey, there's times to keep quiet. Okay, there's times to not tell people what you think, or there's times that you have to understand negotiations, or that artists are going to take their kind of outlook on their art. And you kind of got to talk about it and deal with it. And if you can't figure out a way, let them roll with it. Sometimes the artists kind of bring stuff back that is better than I imagined. And I honestly feel that's about, more than 50% of the chance when they come out with other artists. Most of the interior artists are great at storytelling. And if you find that right artist who can storytell through panels, it's going to be a lot more of a hit, a lot more of an impact to your comic as well. And it's going to help you out. So make sure, like I said, you talk about the positive, you keep that negatives inside, and talk about it with advisors before you post anything. Talk about it with advisors before you go out there and say anything bad about anybody. It's a hard business. It's not for everybody, but like I say, I've done it. You can definitely do it. I'm just a single father, just trying to make an extra dollar to feed my kids. And, I want to just to put some good books out there that I hadn't really seen that often. So other than that, I really don't have much to say today. Check out some of these great campaigns that are out there. We have definitely a few that are coming up. I know Sam the Crazy Man Veras got a campaign out there right now with his duty, if you want to catch on that. But also, we have tons of great campaigns. Isn't that right, Pops? You got a few of them to show? What else do we got to talk about? Like I said, keeping quiet is something that's hard to do for a lot of people. I didn't understand it whenever I came into the industry. It's harder than you expect that originally. Whenever people scrutinize your stuff or talk about what you post on social media, it's a little bit harder to deal with, especially if they talk about your family and whatnot. That's not exactly something that you should take lightly. But again, whenever you are in the entertainment industry, you're kind of front and center, especially if you have a good fan base.
Paul,
props.
dude, I bit my tongue for you. I don't do that for
I
too
know
many
you did.
people, bro. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. I don't do
And
that for too many people. But
I
out of
appreciate
respect
it,
to
Paul.
you and respect to your wishes, I let some shit slide that I wanted to rip people over. I'm
I
just
understand.
saying. And everybody knows I got no filter. All right.
Right?
So, take that for what it is, man. I respect your wishes, and that goes the same with anybody else, man. If they tell me something and they don't go out there and then I won't. But as far as the overall topic, there's two schools of thought on it. Okay, there's don't kneel.
Right.
Okay,
Right,
there's
definitely.
don't apologize. And then there's, which direction are you trying to go? Are you trying to be are you trying to sign with somebody like, Marble Image, something like that? If that's the case, then yeah, you really got to, be careful what you say.
and
If you're
like
trying to
that's
sign with, let's say, the hypothetical Madness Publishing House, I want you to be you. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't want you to curtail who you are. I want the fans to know the real you, not some candy coated version or a facade. That's not what they get with me. You could ask anybody like Tanner and Chris and all the people that met me down in Savannah. They'll tell you this is me. It ain't a facade. Chris hung out with me all weekend, driving in a car and shit together. Okay.
Yeah.
He'll tell you this is who I am. I don't Man, it's hard for me to be quiet, bro. You know that.
Yeah, but I mean, you're a little bit more established with you've got a lot of people around you. Let me tell you, me being brand new and having came in before I met you and the madness and before I met all these other great people, I was alone. So it's not that I tell people to kneel. I tell people to understand and fight your battles.
Yeah,
Choose your battles.
At the time, you weren't. Look, in a couple years, like I say, you're going to outstrip some of these people that were telling you to shush. All right. So I mean, they're going to be coming to you for advice or coming to you, hey, will you sign with us or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's like you're going to be able to look back on that and go, well, y'all remember when, right? Because you're actually doing the thing.
Right.
I don't know anybody on some of these rosters of some of these publishers, and there's quite a few of them. I don't know anybody on any of those rosters putting out 4 books a year, bro.
Right.
Okay. So maybe they should let you be you and sign you or something, That's what you know what I mean? It's like sometimes it's come see, come saw. It's like, is this the hill I want to die on? Well, in your case, fulfillment is your weapon, bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You fulfill in a timely manner 3 times already this year. And you just funded a 4th, I mean, if you had the kind of marketing behind you that those people do, look how much better you could do, right?
I mean, I sold 1,000 copies of PTSD within the first month, 3 months, 3 months. And man, I never ever thought I would sell even 100 of those books. Whenever people tell me it's like you should write issue 2 of PTSD, and I'm like, I don't want to, plagiarize or not plagiarize, but profitize that subject. It was a passion project, and it was one issue because I did want to get that conversation out.
This is the difference that I want to point out to you, Paul. And I'm really trying to drive this home to a lot of creators right now. It isn't what the other creators think. It's what the freaking fans think. They're the ones spending the money. When some publishing house starts paying you to produce comics, then you can fall in line with them.
Right.
Okay. But do you see do you understand? The fans are the ones that are paying you, and they're going to appreciate somebody that's honest and respectfully blunt more than they're going to appreciate somebody that's walking on eggshells.
Right. And I understand that, like I say,
I mean, it is like the fans. That's what I want you to understand. It's, when those guys are paying you to toe their line, that's different. I totally get it.
And that's what I want to tell new creators. It's like, basically you gotta build that fandom up. You've got to build your advisors up. I know you would, Jeff. I know you
See,
would.
and the whole thing is, Paul, is that you are part of the Madness family. Okay. No matter what happens with other things outside of that, we ain't never going to abandon you because you stood for what you do.
Right.
We ain't never going to do that to you, bro. So, it's the fans. The fans are the ones you want to. Dude, that's what it's all about. Good comics, customer service.
Exactly.
And try not to try not to push your agenda. If your message is part of the story, that's cool.
Right.
Don't make your story your message, man.
Yeah.
Because that's when you turn people off. That's when your whole thing is just about that. Or, on the other hand, there's people over there that'll be like drooling all over it. So which
Right.
what you want to do? Ride the middle and catch everybody, or ride one side or the other and only be catering to one side of your fan base,
Yeah. No, I mean, it's hard. It's hard, especially for new creators, because they don't exactly understand or know what they're getting into. Like, whenever I was told not to say anything, on social media that was negative, I didn't really understand that. Me personally, I've always been the type of person that was clear on everything, and I didn't hide anything. So it was like, no matter what I said, I always stood behind. So whether it was positive or negative, it was me, and I didn't care if anyone knew it because I didn't hide anything. But whenever coming into comics, it's kind of a little bit harder because you definitely don't want to step on toes. A lot more people in the industry kind of keep things close to the chest, and that's fine for them. And me being a brand new creator, I want to make sure to respect their wishes as well, and that's definitely a new kind of obstacle for me because I'm not used to just keeping my mouth shut as much as I do. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Quality art, quality writing. Definitely.
And that's the whole thing. Paul's about to fulfill his fourth book in a calendar year.
Yeah.
Fourth book.
Fourth.
That's a professional, a real one. Somebody that's actually fulfilling 4 times a year. Like, his team is coming through on deadlines. The art gets done. The books get lettered. They go to print. They get sent out.
And beautiful art, by the way.
Yes.
Sam Espina on most of my books, and then Brian and Gabe on Bushibu books. Amazing interiors, and then my beautiful cover artists. I can't even name all of them because there's so many.
This guy. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful covers.
They can't tell me it can't be done.
Right?
Okay? They can't tell me it can't be done. I watch it be done. That's why I say you will always have the Madness support, because you actually put a product in the fans' hands in a timely manner, and we look forward to the next one knowing it ain't going to be that far out.
At an affordable rate, too. I always try to keep them at a nice, affordable rate.
Affordable, exactly.
I'm not exactly a rich person myself, so I see it on the other side as well. If they're buying a book, you want to keep at least something affordable. Yeah, we do have those higher price tiers, but I do keep those nice, affordable ones as well.
Yeah, and there you go, Paul, right there.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's like the only people gonna mess with you are people that are scared of where you're going, bro.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I say? I call them speed bumps. You slow down, you roll over that motherfucker, and you keep right on going. It's like, don't let nothing slow you down, because as soon as you stop doing something, then they forget about you.
Yeah.
Just like with the channel, it's like when I started out, somebody told me, dude, don't ever stop. If you schedule something, do it. Be there.
Yeah,
don't ever stop. And as soon as I started doing them weeklies, they go, I hope you know what you're getting into. And it was like, with CromCon and then all the weeklies. And now it's like, man, I want this.
Yeah.
I want the network to grow.
And that's the thing with comics too. I mean, it's addictive making these comics. that second one, they were really just that household project. And then afterwards, it was like, man, when can I do the next one? Because it had so much fun. Met so many people, talked to so many, fans and stuff. And whenever they're loving this stuff and coming and asking you questions about the next one, when it's coming or what's going to happen in it, it's just amazing.
And that's what I mean. It's like I don't think you need to worry about anything. Your track record, your track record is becoming known. Okay. When you came out here last year, we went, who the hell's that, right?
All right.
To me, I just saw a family man that has some good kids, and he's just trying to provide for his kids and have fun and make comics. And your kids are even involved in some of your comics, which makes it even more cool. See, so I liked you and your family, and the books were like, yeah, it's just, man, this stuff gets better and better. And then Jeff's covers, I was blown away by Jeff's covers on both PTSD and Cryptic Haze. Good stuff. Okay, loved his covers. Then you sent me that Star Wars homage from Bushy Boo, and I was like, "Oh, holy shit!" Which made me actually read the book. And
yeah,
because I figured that was when I was going to show the kids, and it was like, because I do that, I get books for the kids. I want the next generation to love what we love,
right? I always tell people I was aiming more towards the teenagers and whatnot, because I feel that they're a little missed.
Yeah. Actually, on the first page of the Enter the Cromniverse book, where it shows the origin of Crom, at the bottom it was him. It shows him sitting behind my chair, right?
Yeah.
Saying, wait till they get a load of me. So I totally get it. See, I appreciate what you do, Paul, and I'm not going to let anybody hold you down, man. Now, like I said, I respectfully didn't go public with all the shit I wanted to go public with back at that time, right? I still haven't.
Right.
To this day, I haven't really called anybody out about that, but I do get to point at you and go, look at you, look at what you're doing, look at what you're doing over and over again. How often am I talking about anybody over there?
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's like there's only a couple people over there that are really getting anything done either.
Yeah.
So just fulfill. That's how you win fans. That's how you influence people. You just keep putting books in people's hands, and it all does the rest for itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I believe that.
Look, you said 1,000 copies of PTSD in the first month.
For 3 months, yeah.
Oh, first 3 months. 1,000 copies. That's Sam Quentin numbers right there.
I didn't really understand that either whenever I first came in. A lot of people told me that was a big number, and I was like, I was just selling. The numbers have slowed down a lot, and that's okay, because I'm still enjoying going out there and meeting these people. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Like I said, I wanted to make it for teenagers, because my teenagers felt like there was a lot of books out there for younger kids and a lot of them out there for older kids, but not so much for teenagers. And that's why I was trying to make my books aimed at teenagers. I actually had somebody recently tell me, don't do that. Don't make books for teenagers because they don't have money. And I'm like, that's the audience that I think you need to hit, because everybody seems to be talking about the younger kids or the adults and their, more mature stuff. And I'm like, what about the teenagers? That's when I learned about comics. It's when my teens learned about comics.
Hey, all the way up until they realized that they like each other.
Right.
They'll like comics. Okay. Yeah. As soon as they find the other, whatever they're interested in, then it's all over, right? But up to that point, you can sell them comics, man. And
even nowadays, I mean, a lot of girls are getting into comics and stuff, and Bushy Boo sells well with girls because of the main character Zahara.
Uh-huh.
They kind of relate to her whenever they come up to my table and stuff, and I've had some customers, some fans that were girls that pulled guys over there and was like, "Hey, I like this book, buy it for me." And I'm like, you can't
There you
beat
go.
that.
There
Yeah.
you go. They just liked your son.
Yeah, right.
And that is something to be proud of. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul, this was great. See, this show worked out just exactly the way it should. You got to say what was on your mind about the subject of keeping quiet.
Exactly.
And you know, like I said, there's going to come a time when you do get to pull the trumpets out and stand on the top of the mountain and go, "Look at me now! Look at me now!"
I'll be okay with just making good comics and
There you
getting
go.
out there.
See, that's why I like him. He's all humble and he's even when I can blow the horn, I ain't gonna.
I'll be here to let Pops do that because he's man, Pops.
Even when he's big enough, he's like, I ain't gonna do that. I'm just gonna sell good books. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
Give us good stuff to read. That's all we want as fans. Good stuff to read. Put it out there. We will buy it. We, you know, if you're having a hard time getting it in front of people, you come to people like me. You go to people like Nita. Good stuff. There's so many. RJ, Sam Barra. There's so many people that are doing this kind of promotional work that do it on the regular basis, where people know this is where to go when you're looking to see what the new stuff coming out is.
Yeah.
You know, look, this network ain't going nowhere. I plan on it outliving me, just so y'all know that. Okay, so get behind what we're doing because we ain't going nowhere, and we're going to promote the hell out of what all you guys do. You know, I want more drama, more violence. Oh, well, then I got the book for you, man. Have you guys seen the trailer for Private American yet?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that, Paul?
Good. Yeah.
Oh.
Everybody's got to see that because that looks great.
Okay, well, we'll end the show with that then. What do you think?
Sounds good.
We'll do Six Gun Gorilla and that one because Six Gun Gorilla, Brian Kriskow is testing the waters at Zoop for us right now with his trade of 8 issues of Six Gun Gorilla. Okay.
Sounds good.
And Lee Newman is testing the waters at Crowdfunder by continuing the Saison campaign, and any money he makes over there will add to the stretch goal count on the previous Kickstarter. So he'll just keep adding stretch goals with the money he makes over on Crowdfunder. So, you know, I mean, these guys are testing the waters on these other crowdfunding platforms for us and finding out if they're viable, if, you know, how they work, so that we get the inside info on this, right, you know, before a whole bunch of people jump over there and nothing happens, you know. So we're behind what Lee's doing. We're behind what Brian's doing, and we're promoting them both, not the platforms, the people taking the chance.
That's right.
And going over there. Those are what we're promoting. And go check out those books if you didn't get them on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, respectively. You got Saison and Six Gun Gorilla on Crowdfunder and Zoop. There you go. There. Did I get my commercials all in? How'd I do?
Sounds good.
Producing is fun, man. Actually, I'm having a lot of fun doing the backstage, the producing of the shows, and not being involved in so many of them. But I wanted you to have the other side to bounce off to.
Right.
You know, you and I were in that together. I was one of them people you came to and went, "What should I do?" And me and my boys were like, "Man, let's get them." Right. And every one of us, all right, we'll let Paul do this his way, right? Every one of us, right? We all backed up, you know. But yeah, I mean, as a group, the madness was kind of mad.
Yeah.
You know,
and I appreciate people behind. You know, I don't try to make anyone mad in this industry, and I try not to do anything wrong. You know, when that situation came up, I went straight ahead and talked to them before they even send me those nasty letters. But you know, all the good stuff.
Yeah, it's all good stuff, man. Look, you just keep doing what you do, like you said, and your name will speak for itself. You won't need nobody will be able to do that to you.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? You were new, you were shaky on what was okay and what wasn't. It's like I don't think you're going to have those kind of problems going forward, man.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so either. I got, like I said, a lot of people around me that I trust and advise me pretty well, and a lot of opportunities ahead of me, and things are great right now, Pops. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you and everybody else.
And the funniest thing was, Chuck.
Yeah.
Me and Chuck, we had a little parting of the ways a while back over a decision that I personally made, and he was like, man, that's not a good direction for my look. And he was out.
Right.
And that's cool. Okay. When you brought him on the show last week, that was great. Or week before last, seeing Chuck again. And it's like, I don't got no hard feelings,
Yeah.
He just thought that wasn't good for his thing. But here we are. We still promote the people he edits. We still promote. Right. You see what I'm saying? None of that really changes. Okay,
right.
We
Speaking
see
of
good
Chuck,
books. We're going to promote them. I'm trying to overlook. Bad
speaking
blood.
of Chuck, Blalock 3 is on Kickstarter right now, just to let the audience know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to overlook some of the past bad blood.
Yeah.
Because too many people I know that I like are collaborating with people that I've had problems with in the past.
And
it got to the point where I got to just let it go. I like this guy. I want him to be successful. Right. I don't really care if he's working with that guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, because it's just like the mission of the madness. I want you all to succeed. And with that, I'm letting this thing go. Y'all have a good night. Check out Paul Gomez on Facebook. Check out his books. Check out, man. Do you got a website yet where you drop?
Not yet. I had a website that I told people about, but now I'm not on one. So soon we'll be on one.
Bro, you have back issues now. You need to put that where people can always get it, whether you have a campaign and a catch-up tier or not.
Right.
One of those advisors coming at you strong, live in front of the world. Get it done. All right. Y'all have a good night. I don't think I have anything else tonight. Wow, it's been a long day, but a good day.
Good day.
What should we do? 6-gun gorilla? Oh, well, let's start with Private American.
America's southern border has become a war zone. Human traffickers, drug smugglers, and terrorists flow across the Rio Grande with impunity, secure in the knowledge that no one will stop them. A distant federal government lectures Americans on their privilege while punishing overworked Border Patrol agents who were helpless to stem the tidal wave of invaders and determined migrants. Second-generation Cuban-American Marcos Zamora is a military vet, more patriotic than most Americans. No longer able to ignore the chaos at his doorstep, he acts. Joined by his best friend Gus, they hit the border every night, saving lives while stopping violent drug cartels and other opportunists. The government reacts with fury at Marcos' attempts to preserve American sovereignty, deploying the full might of their enforcement agencies. But Marcos understands that the only thing the rich and powerful fear is bad publicity, and he records every encounter. Whoever he is, this private American must be stopped. Illustrated by Richard Bonk and written by Eisner winner Mike Barron, Private American is his version of Captain America, and maybe a little Punisher, taking part in this ongoing, violent, and very real battle of good versus evil in the war for American sovereignty. Grab your copy at theprivateamerican.com.
We have a secure border, and that is a priority for our administration.
I'ma get it, you know I be on the way. Yeah. You know I be on the way. Man on a mission, I'ma get it, you know I be on the way. Yeah, it's all hard, ain't no fear here. You ain't giving this to all, you steer clear. Never beat, I've been down and I reappear. You got some money on the line, you better put it here. Rolling in and doing that work.
We've all heard the stories. We've all heard the legends. Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, Billy the Kid. But there's a secret history to the Old West. One that seems too strange to be true, but, well, we all know what they say about the truth. Very big ape, very big guns, blowing very big holes, very bad people. I think the world is finally ready to hear the story of the strangest, the most startling Western hero of them all. Six-gun gorilla, long days of vengeance.
The original intention of the film was just for my personal use, but I thought with it being such a unique thing that I'd like to offer it to anybody who wants to see it. Things like that. And it's just a unique film of him.
He says, I beat you. He says, they say we came in under the dead heat. He says, that's not true because I beat you. And the American said, well, he says, if you like to think so, he says, but I know a real story. He says, I know I clearly won that one.
How do you end this thing? How do you put the where's the brakes on this bus? I forgot.
Jazz hands. Jazz hands are done.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit